A man who used to be caught up in conspiracy theories himself is now helping others distinguish between fact and fiction. And Bryan Bakker is using humor to do that. Bakker's experience with conspiracy theories goes back to 2007. Like many of us, he was getting his news on the internet, and much of what he read and heard made him fear for his safety. He eventually learned how to tell the truth from lies online, and now he wants to help others do the same. He founded Newsload.ca, which gives the news of the day a comedic twist he hopes will make people more open to looking for the truth. Bryan Bakker spoke with CBC's Leigh Anne Power.
So I notice on your social media platforms that your bio says you're an ex-conspiracy theorist. So let's talk about that first. How did you become a conspiracy theorist in the first place?
I got sucked in by some of the first Alex Jones videos. Believe it or not, I was a 9/11 truther, and then I was a peak oil. Those were the two conspiracies that I bought into pretty hardcore. You know, it's one of those things where when you get sucked into one of these vortexes, it kind of feels like the ground is moving out from under you, right? It's kind of like, oh my God, everyone's lying. I can't believe everyone's lying. And it's terrifying. And you start to think about how you can protect yourself and your family and what you can do to, potentially warn other people about the unbelievable truth that you've discovered. Social media was just in its infancy, perhaps, back then. I know it was YouTube videos I watched with Alex Jones. So, yeah, I went down it, and I was in pretty deep. And thankfully, I had my brother who kept the spark of doubt alive in me. And if there's anybody in that situation, what I would say is that if you believe in any conspiracy theory at all, you owe it to yourself before you spend a lot of energy and ruin relationships. You owe it to yourself to type in your conspiracy theory into Google, followed by the word debunked, and read what comes up, because that's what got me out of it. I started to actually research the other side.
What was it about those videos that did draw you in the first place?
Well, I mean, they were very dramatic. They made stuff up out of whole cloth. They used a lot of half-truths. They used a lot of leading questions. I mean, you see it all today in all these videos that come down the pipe. I mean, all these tools were being honed back in the day, and they were very effective. They scared the living you-know-what out of me.
Okay, so now you founded Newsload. Tell me a little bit about what Newsload is and how it will help you in your fight to debunk some of these conspiracy theories.
Newsload really came out of this idea that getting drawn into conspiracy is really about people leveraging fear to push your behavior. And critical thinking, lots of people think critical thinking is about, looking at your outside world and critically examining it and trying to figure out what's true and what's not. And there is truth in that, but more importantly, what critical thinking is looking inside. How is what I'm seeing impacting my behavior? And is that the behavior that someone wants me to do? So fear is that tool. Fear is that tool that's used. And from an evolutionary perspective, what's always been the opposite of fear? It's funny, right? I mean, our tagline in the Newsload is structuring comedy to save the world, and I really believe it has the potential to save the world. Fear has been gamed out to change political behavior for a long time. Funny, there's lots of examples of people using funny, and certainly political satire has been there forever, but it's not used in the same way that fear is online. And what's amazing about funny is that funny flips the script on fear. And that's the real key sort of idea here, is that, where you might get a click by using fear and outrage and anger, you can also get a click by making something funny and ironic. But where fear will draw you down a rabbit hole that can be amplified by disinformation, funny can pull you toward real information. Often, you hear that saying, it's funny because it's true. So it's also based off this premise that there's nothing else out there that can get you to rethink and invest the position the way laughter can, the way a well-structured joke can. So my premise is that funny can draw people away from extremism toward real information, real sources, and that's how we structure it. So when we do a comedy sketch, for instance, we'll include a link saying, hey, if you want to learn more about, the story we did this on, click here. And that's where we structure it, right? One of the only rules that we give our franchisees of a Newsload outlet is that they always point their content towards, legitimate news sources, legitimate journalism. They can't just use unverified or unsubstantiated rumors. The idea of a Newsload outlet is to do comedy, say like Rick Mercer, on a local level with different franchises. And one of the things I know for sure is that there's all kinds of talented improvisers in every community. There's all kinds of videographers looking to create portfolio. There's all kinds of journalists doing real journalism in local communities, but have a really hard time getting attention. So the Newsload is trying to pull those teams together and getting them to work together so that the Newsload is like a addendum to the local news ecosystem.
But it's the magnet that draws people in the first place, though.
Exactly, and that's the key. So, we get them laughing, we get their interest, and then, hey, if you want to learn more, click here, and boom, you go to your local newspaper's website. Hopefully, we'll bring new audiences to the newspapers and the news organizations that are having a hard time keeping the attention. There's just so much competition out there. So you have to be entertaining now. You have to inform and entertain. And, we're not real journalists, right? I mean, we're comedians. So we base our work off of the work of real journalists and real journalism. And that's really key to understanding how our business model, I think, can really do something to stem the tide of these news deserts that are forming and bring new income into these news organizations.
Bryan Bakker is the founder of Newsload.ca.